Let me ask you something. When you think of America, what picture pops inside of your head? This is probably not a video for those of you who can't picture anything inside of your head. It's gonna have you gonna listen. If you don't have an inner monologue or you can't picture shit, you're probably gonna have a hard time with this one. Y'all NPCs can kick rock for the moment. The rest of us got to have a conversation. When I picture America, this is what I see, right? Because this is my home, right? I mean, it's not technically my home. Like, I don't live at this place. But this is, like what I see out my front door on a regular basis. It's like a whole bunch of mountains and trees and shit, right? I see the Appalachians because that's where I'm from. When you think of like what we came from and who we are as a people, right? You think of the Union coal miners, right? This is my ancestry, right? The Pinkertons fighting against the steel workers, again, more my ancestry. Here's some of y'all Confederates versus the Union, right? This is our national mythos as people. Washington crossing the Potomac, right? Steel workers up here on the girder, again, more my people. Guys out here grinding to get it done and busting their ass to provide for us. World War II, us, raising the flag on Iwo Jima. Landing on the moon. But this is what the average immigrant sees when they think of America. They see a whore. A whore who can be exploited. Who's opulent on television. Who has more than they could possibly dream of. We project these ideas directly into their heads. My grandfather, when he showed up, his plan was to literally pick the gold off of the streets so he could get rich. Because he heard the streets were lined with gold, right? He took it literally. Listen, it's not that he was dumb. It's just, it's like, no way. They build their streets out of gold? Like, I'm going to go rob that. Right, and I thought the same thing. And like Katrina, I was like, we can go rob some jewelry stores. Everybody got a grift. But this is what the average immigrant sees. This is what we send to them as a group of people. Now, the question is, right, what is America? Are we a nation? Are we a state? Right? Like, what are we as a people, right? Like, what is a nation in the end of the day, right? Like, what is a nation of people? Are we a nation? A nation is a group of people who share a common identity, culture, language, and history, who are typically united by a sense of belonging and shared values. A nation can be defined by geographic boundaries, but can also exist without them. Nations can be comprised of multiple ethnic and racial groups, may have their own government and institutions. The idea of a nation is closely tied to the idea of nationalism, which is a belief that a superiority. Man, listen, whatever, right? Fucking leftist. I grabbed this off of Google, right? But a nation is a group of people. A nation is different than a state, right? A state is your government in the end of the day. That's why, like, when you see state, you see, like, the Capitol building. This is what a state is. We often get these things confused. We are a nation. Back in the day, when this was what this country looked like, this was the borders, geographic regions of this country. Each of these places was its own state. It was its own nation. Right? Is a real actual map, you know what I mean? Because like that was a map for children. But honestly, a lot of the times that's who we're talking to when we're on here. So we got to keep these ideas simple. But this here is the nation. Like each of these places was its own nation. Virginians were different than North Carolinians. They were different than South Carolinians. They were different than Georgians, different than Pennsylvanians and New Yorkers, Massachusetts people, and people in Maine, Rhode Island. All of these people were their own nation. Actually, Massachusetts was Maine at that point, right? Rhode Islanders, New Jersey people, Delaware, Maryland. All these people were their own people, their own nation, their own dialects, ways of life, food, culture, economies. What is all these things? What are we? What are we supposed to be thinking of when we think of a nation? When we think of a group of people? How should we treat the individuals who come here looking to exploit this? Because none of these people actually care, right? Like when these people come here and they see our nation, right? What they think of, you know what I'm saying, is they think of, all the things that we've done. They think anything is possible. We landed on the fucking moon. Listen, flat earthers, I apologize, and anybody, whatever, this is what the portrayal is. Okay, so we got to work in the common mindset. All right, let's not get tied down with nonsense. But they say they landed on the moon. They're so rich, they have so much. But the things that we do have, our forefathers, the people, our ancestors fought and died for them. A lot of y'all didn't get a chance to meet them. A lot of y'all have no idea what they went through. A lot of y'all today you'll never talked to somebody from the Great Depression. You never talked to somebody that shed blood for you. You don't know what it is that was given for you to be here. And I get that, right? I completely get that. And so you don't have that understanding of your value and your people's and your culture's value, your nation's value. You don't understand these things. And that's okay, because that's what I'm here to kind of show you a little bit. And I want you to understand what you lost. This is why we've been thinking of the things we've been thinking of. This is why we've been talking about these type of things. Because if you want real nations, you want real cultures, ideas, mentalities, you have to really start thinking about it in these type of terms. Of what do you have in common? I don't have anything in common with somebody from Los Angeles and New Mexico. I just don't have anything in common with them. I don't have anything in common with anybody from Texas. I just don't. Short of we have to serve the same government. And why is that? Why do we speak the same language? Why do we have the same dialects? This big of a continent? Doesn't make any fucking sense. Right? And in 1860 in Italy, only 2.5% or 10%, depending on who you talk to, of the population actually spoke Italian. Right? Do you know why? And how that changed? Compulsory schooling. These ideas that we have in our head of how things work, who we're supposed to rely on for our ideas and our mentalities. These ideas of what we're supposed to be, what language we're supposed to speak, our culture, our values. They don't come from the compulsory schooling. This is indoctrination. There's a reason why it is you're forced to spend 13 years of your life in school, legally. Or your parents will have their house taken. Because the only reason they're allowed to live here and produce here, and be safe here, is that they give their children up into the economy and produce for the upper class in the end of the day, really. I'll just say produce for all of us, but just not how it works, because this isn't a real nation. When we're having these conversations, we should really think a little deeper about things. When we're talking with guys like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they're not of our people. They're not part of our nation. They're just not. They don't share your values because they're anywheres. They can live anywhere they want to. Vivek can go and live in Tokyo tomorrow if he wanted. Nothing will really change for him. I mean, he probably had to eat more sushi. But then again, there's McDonald's and KFC in Japan. He could probably eat the same as he eats here. Probably eat a bunch of Indian food too. This is how this works. He can go to Singapore. He can go to Vietnam. He can go to Europe. He can go to Hungary. He can go to Abu Dhabi if he wanted. He can go to any of these places and live the same as he does right now because he's in anywhere. The same with Elon. These people aren't part of a nation. They're just not. They're unrooted cosmopolitans. Rootless people. Completely deracinated. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. Their ideas of what America is that guy walking on the moon. They think America is literally just a place for great innovation, technical feats. And that's their idea of America. It's not us, though. Right? Like, it's not who we are as a people. Right? It's not the humans who live here aren't what's important to them. Right? It's not the people that they care about because they're not part of these people. They didn't come from here. They're not us. Right? Their forefathers didn't do this. They didn't build any of this shit. Right? Their people didn't shed blood for this. Their people didn't lay down their lives for this. They didn't die in a fucking field fighting for the right to be able to not have to kill themselves at work. They didn't stand up to armed men just so they had the right to be able to have a little bit more food on the table for their children. And so that the children can grow and produce more children who produced you. That's the thing about all this. They're not part of that. They don't even know what the fuck that is. They're just taking advantage of all these things that we did, that all people did, that we fought and died for, that our families fought and died for. This blood is this ground is littered with our blood and our sweat and the bodies of our ancestors lie in these fucking dirt. This is not a nation of ideas or an economy. Fuck the economy. Because if they're not willing to pay us for the privilege of being here and taking advantage of what we've built, then they shouldn't be allowed to be here. That's the reality of it. Yo, listen, man. I'm Tom Pease with Pnoid News. Happy New Year, motherfuckers. Love y'all. Peace.